There we go. Hell yeah, that's a good opener song. I think that'll work. It works. Anyways, yes, hello. It's your best fiend out there, and I have with me the pleasure of having Will, who won the Pixel Challenge Award from you're probably gonna remember the blob of text that seemingly was impossible to deobfuscate, and yet it was done, and it scared me quite a bit. Uh, Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining.
Hey, it's an honor. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Hell yeah, it's great to have you. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be catching this, maybe not live, probably on replay, but for the people that are live, as they trickle in, I'm sure everybody's going to be pretty stoked to hear from you and kind of see the walkthrough of your thought process and how things worked. So we'll get into that real soon. I, uh, I'm tempted to just jump right into it, um, and I don't think that's a bad idea actually. But there was there was one news story I had seen. Man, let me find it really quick. Uh, I You know what? Yeah, let's not jump into these yet. So, welcome to Hacker.Rehab, episode 4. We are getting kicked off again. Sadly, not with Sparkle Ops today, but we're gonna have a pretty chaotic show like normal. It's gonna be awesome. Uh, can you give us an idea, Will, of your kind of background and what got you into everything? Like, what led you to this place at this time?
Yeah, definitely. My education was computer science and math, which machine learning is kind of at the intersection of. And
Mm.
as people, I guess, ascertained through my picture of camels and the Twitter profile that said I was in the army. I am an army officer. Been in the army for 10 years. Um, I was originally artillery, so I like computed the firing solutions for howitzers. Did that for
Oh,
a
nice.
while, and then the army came out with a cyber branch, which they didn't have back when I joined, and then so I transferred right over around like 2015 time, and then around that time, like while I was doing the training for that, um, one of my friends just like sent me this random thing. He was like, "Hey, check this out." It was some stuff that OpenAI was doing. Um, it was like these cool games. The field of machine learning that it was all about was called reinforcement learning, and I got hooked from there. And then it's been my hobby ever since. Did a master's in machine learning after that, and so I've just been sinking all my time into it since then.
That's rad. And OpenAI, so you mentioned that as being kind of like your maybe catalyst of something that got you really interested in it. Was there a particular part of it that drew you to that field or that thing?
Yeah. So OpenAI, for people that aren't familiar with them, they're like this big AI research organization. I think they're actually owned by Microsoft now, but back then, I think it was Elon Musk that started it, and his whole thing was like, hey, let's do AI research with the goal of like creating the singularity, but in a safe way. But there's a lot of baby steps, like leading up to that, and
Is
so
there any safe way
uh,
to create the singularity?
I'm personally not worried about the singularity. I think
No?
we're pretty far from there, but yeah.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, one of the baby steps was they created this like platform called OpenAI Gym, which it basically was a bunch of simulations for little games, and then your goal, as the programmer, was to basically program the algorithm, so your little like autonomous agent could solve these games. and they had little challenges to see like who could do it the best and stuff. But just
Mm.
the idea back then, especially, it's all magic when you don't understand it. So back
Yeah.
then it was like complete magic to me. And the idea of being able to like get this little robot, to do, just to learn and then solve something was just crazy to me.
Yeah, I bet. Um, how long did it take you to really? I mean, did you just get it on your first try? Did you like? Did
No,
you?
no, definitely years,
Oh, okay.
years to get where I am now. You can do a lot of cool stuff like right away, like watching tutorials, just binge watch some YouTube
I
series.
was gonna say
If you already know
YouTube.
how to code,
It's
yeah.
almost
If
like
you
a
already know how to code, then you're good.
yeah. It's almost like a meme. Like people say, like, well, I just watched a YouTube video to learn how to do this insanely complex thing. Insert insanely complex thing here. But in actuality, you really honestly can learn insanely complex things
I
from
swear I've
YouTube.
learned like 90% from YouTube.
That's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, huh. That's really interesting. I wonder how that's actually transformed our like just our kids these days, their abilities to learn stuff out out of band from school, like through YouTube. Um, I I don't have kids myself, but I can imagine kids are they're they've got to be learning crazy stuff from YouTube. I don't think they're
Yeah.
just watching like mine what is it? Mine something. Oh my god, how am I
Yeah,
blanking on
Minecraft.
that? Minecraft, thank you.
I think most of them probably are just watching it, but
Yeah.
no, I do think about that. I do think about it all the time. Yeah, I have two kids of my own. They don't watch a ton of YouTube yet. They're still pretty young, but
Mm.
uh, I'll definitely like try to get them on some educational channels.
Yeah, yeah.
But already, like they're using technology so much earlier than I did, and they're pretty good at it. So I
Oh
definitely think
man.
education has changed.
Does it scare you or as a parent or does it make you more or does it make you excited for the things that you kind of see every day, day to day?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely terrifies my wife. Um, there's certain aspects of it that's scary, like just
Mm.
how easy it would be for them to connect with strangers and whatnot. But
Sure.
the education aspect and the technology aspect, I'm super excited for them. Like, I think
Yeah.
all that's gonna be great.
Cool. Yeah, I think a lot of parents would echo that. Um, I know friends of mine that are parents that they're like, yeah, it's it's a scary world. That's like where they leave it at because they're not sure what to think, and I
Yeah,
don't think
there's
anybody
there's
is.
nothing you can do about
Yeah.
it.
Well,
It's the
that's
world we
true.
live in now. So
Sadly, it is really, and like, yeah, then it there's actually a bunch of interesting conversations that we haven't really had recently, but it gets into conversations about, well, is spyware or whatever appropriate for watching your kids and protecting your kids? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question anymore. I thought I did. And the answer was, well, if
yeah,
you're a good enough parent, you shouldn't need that. But mm, the internet's just so damn accessible now. Like, you can get
yeah,
it by
yeah.
accident, practically.
Yeah, I always threaten, because my kids know that, I could write stuff like that. So I threaten that I'll be writing, malware for their phones, but uh
Nice.
in actuality, I'm sure I'll keep their privacy, but
Yeah.
it is tempting.
It's a hard balance, though, because there was stuff when I was growing up that, it wasn't anywhere near what it is today, right? Like the 80s and 90s were nothing. Uh, the internet literally didn't exist, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, it was the DARPA network primarily, and but BBS's did, and there still was connection, right? And I had a mother that was smart enough to be able to watch from a distance and intervene when she needed to and things like that. It's interesting how that's transformed though over the years.
Yeah, yeah. And who knows, what'll happen in the next 10 years, as they grow up too.
Yeah, right. Like I really do kind of wonder. I think as far as innovation goes, I don't know. Do you think we're gonna see any kind of crazy breakthrough inventions that transform the world as much as the internet did in our lifetime?
I
I,
think,
I can't
yeah,
imagine.
I think it's bound to happen.
Really?
If you
Oh,
think
okay.
about, yeah, I think we get like caught in this trap where, we think we're like, this is the peak. It can't get much better than this, but I'm sure that's how everybody felt, a decade ago or 2 decades ago.
Hmm. Yeah, that's not a bad point. And I mean, yeah, I don't know if anybody saw the internet coming. But then
I mean,
again,
even
did they
just
see
social
cars
media, like,
coming? Right? Like, did we see anything coming? I guess not. So
yeah,
you're right. Well, clearly, this ties into to the whole thing, right? Like, your specialty, I believe, that you publicly have on Twitter is you're a machine learning expert, right? And machine learning AI is the next frontier. It seems like to me, and I've been pretty, I guess you could say, critical of it, uh, mainly just because I'm pretty terrified of the implications of what it can do. Uh, what what got you past those fears? Is it just being familiar with it and seeing, okay, no, we don't have to worry too much about this because of this? Like, does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, that I'm not like personally worried about the singularity. I think like the more you peek behind the curtain, really it's all just math, and so equations aren't going to jump off the board and take over the world. There are some dangers, and a lot of the times it's just the applications. It's the human element. Like, what are the humans going to do with this technology that works 90% of the time or whatever? So there are dangers, and a lot of things that we should like carefully think about. But as far as the AI overlords, I think we're way a ways from that happening.
Yeah, I well, really though. I mean, because honestly, I gotta say, like, so just for example, the Pixel Challenge, right? Like, let me pull up the original. I think you actually have it in your article right at the top. But the challenge, when I put this out originally, here it is. Uh, it's it's so, in my opinion, it looks impossible. This looks impossible to do, and yet here we have you, this essentially just knocking something out over the weekend. I think you said it was over a weekend, right? Like, do you want to? I guess yeah. Let's just dive into it. But like, just to summarize what I was saying though, just this blob, right? I never would have
Yeah,
expected uh, it to be solved the way it was solved. At least I expected it to get solved, kind of in a way. Like I there was a part of me that was like, yeah, there's a good chance somebody's gonna get this. Um, how, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping it'll inspire something. But the way it did was just mind blowing. So, uh, yeah, I mean, screw it. Let's the news can wait. Let's dive into it. What other than your buddy mentioning it to you, how in the world do you turn a blob into the text that was written once long ago. Long ago, maybe
Yeah.
2 weeks or 3 weeks. But what the hell? What the hell?
So have you actually talked about this challenge on your show before? I was curious a little bit about the background for like why you even came up with doing this.
So the reasoning for why I came up with doing this is I had read the original work, not maybe 6 months ago, I want to say, ish, regarding um, deobfuscation. I forget the authors and everything. I actually it's caught me off guard. I don't have that
Was
info.
was that tool that you posted on Twitter?
I think it eventually, yeah, it was one of the GitHub repos that I had reposted or retweeted from somebody else that found it, or maybe I wrote a tweet and said maybe this looks interesting, and I think yeah, it was from them that they after they wrote all of their stuff, they had said, hey, we've been contacted by people and told we we were actually kind of beaten to the punch by this team from some college team that had did
Hmm.
it before them or something like that. But that doesn't really matter too much. The point is, what they did, this team from GitHub, and I will look for it and link it, they took text and deobfuscated it, and it was kind of similar looking to this, but it was also the paper was written in a way that I spotted a lot of words that were really prescriptive, I guess you could say. Like, the text must be this font, the text must be this size, things like that. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I was like, well, but then is this really real, or is this a proof of concept but not practical? Because practicality
Hmm.
really is everything. There are tons of 0 days and 1 days or n days, whatever you want to call that cause, like, you get root on SCADA controllers and all this crazy stuff, but it needs 10 billion the variables that just have to be tuned right, and it's not default, things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. That kind of is a bad vulnerability, or even a bad exploit. Um, or, no, vulnerability was the right word, but it's not practical. It's not going to threaten national security. It's not going to threaten the world. Um, and so throughout the years, the uptick has been pretty steady in stuff that's interesting, super interesting. I love the idea of exfiltration channels that are obscure. That's a really cool, cool topic.
Yeah.
And
I love that too.
yeah, and privacy stuff, like, and so this kind of more was privacy, I guess. But anyways, so read that about 6 months ago, saw the little quirks in it, and I don't actually recall what triggered it again. It might have just been simply uh, maybe I redacted something, and somebody mentioned, "Hey, you use the pixelization, you're gonna get somebody's gonna find it,"
They're gonna get
and
you.
I was like, "But are they?" And I was like, you know what? This would actually make an interest. Let me go ahead and so I just did it. I just kind of went and did it, and like, it's not the first time that I've done a challenge. I don't think. I think I've done prior ones, although I think they were less well structured than this one. I definitely put a lot of work into the structure of it and kind of making it fair, making it
Yeah.
scientific almost in a way, so that there were proof points, like there were points in it that you you couldn't get, you couldn't guess to get it right. There were a lot of people trying that, and good on you for trying, but no, it was not going to work. There was no way to guess this. Unless, well, I guess you could there probability-wise, possibly 9 billion people on Earth. If everybody somehow got this to 9 billion people, maybe they could guess it. But realistically, practically, you can't guess it. So, there's that. And then I put out enough information, I think, that was fair. Because some people noted that, well, whenever you see censorship or pixelization, it's in a document that's it's in a document that's
we
like
can see other
you can see
text. Yeah.
right? So I said, okay. Even though I did some testing actually, and turns out no matter what size it is, it still pixelizes the same way. At least I think it does. I shouldn't say that. The image size, the cropping. If you crop it differently, it doesn't matter. I bet you the font size probably changes it. Why wouldn't it? It has to. But anyways, the point is, I put out enough info. I gave the font. I don't know if I wrote the size. I think I did.
You did, but I don't know like how you generated the image, but the like that font size was basically meaningless. Like
oh, really?
from our
Okay.
perspective, yeah. Like for me, I had to when I did my little optimization to find like the font, I was having to use like 50-point font
Oh,
with the images that I was creating. Yeah, so
interesting. Well,
I bet it could have been solved without knowing the actual font too, but
yeah, I think so.
yeah. So what made you increase the prize the second day?
I don't think people would have been interested at 100. I was thinking about it, and like at first it was kind of just a goofy thing to put out there, right? Like just me being the not Dan character that stirs the pot and says stupid things. But then I was like, this actually could be a serious thing. We could actually get some fun out of it and innovation out of it. Let's try it. And so yeah, I was like, let me actually up this. Let me do this to 1,000. That'll at least get people that were maybe interested but not interested in wasting their time for nothing
Yeah.
to play. And I think it might have worked for at least one person.
Yeah, I can't remember if my buddy sent me the original tweet or if it was the $1,000 tweet, but now I'm wondering whether he would have sent it to me if you hadn't upped it. And then I might have never even seen it.
I kind of, yeah, I get the feeling that $1,000 really did push it over the edge of this is now something that's viable for a lot of people's interest. At least I noticed that in the replies, like people that were asking
Yeah, yeah.
questions about it, things like that. There's a lot more that was going on after that. So
Yeah, and that's the stuff that really like drives me to want to do stuff like this when I see that there's actual competition and like people are trying it, versus just solving a thing to solve a thing. Yeah,
things.
it's a lot more fun when other people are trying to race you to it.
Yeah, yeah. So were you like glued to the competition? And I mean that like were you checking Twitter frequently enough to see, hey, what's everybody else doing? Are they getting close, or did you just heads down focus on your track?
Yeah, well, so like I said, my friend shot me the message, and getting back to you thinking it was impossible. At first, I looked at it and I was like, dude, this you're not gonna be able to solve this. Like, this is too hard of a problem. And I started to think about like, why did I really think that it wouldn't be solvable? And I think I always like start to think about things as like bits of information.
Hmm.
And I was thinking in the extreme, if you blur it down to 1 pixel, like you obviously aren't going to recover it, but
Sure.
you know because the pixels aren't bits, it's actually a scalar, 0 to 255 for the most part. There actually is even in 1 pixel a lot of information. So um, I was obviously wrong, but yeah, definitely looking at it, I was like, man, this is such a hard problem. But then, sat there, stewed on it a little bit, and I was familiar with this task in machine learning called super resolution, which is why I went down the path that I did.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
after that, like, I wanted to just like quickly get something going, so pulled pulled the network down off of GitHub from from a super resolution paper, someone that had implemented that,
Is that
and
the
then I had,
PyTorch tutorial to super resolution? Is that the one you're referring to?
yep,
Okay, cool. So I just,
yeah, yeah,
for reference, I have it up next to us right now, just so people can kind of see what he's talking about. But yeah, it's. Sorry to interrupt. I totally
yeah, yeah.
interrupted
If
your
you don't know
train of
PyTorch,
thought.
like it might not make any sense, but being familiar with the super resolution task, like I basically just Googled what sort of was the top state of the art. And this paper, I think, had recently come out. And so this was a repo that happened to have one of the networks implemented in it already. So for deep learning stuff, like you need the network architecture, which is what this repo gives me. And then you need training data, that was the like pretty much the work that I had to do was come up with a method to produce data that looked at as close to what you had.
Right.
And then you just write a little loop to give the data to the network, and then it updates its weights to try to accomplish the task. But yeah, initially, like I read everything on your Twitter for sure, looking for any hints to narrow down, like to basically create the data set. Like I want as much information as I can get, and there wasn't a ton of information early on. I did see some of the other people's attempts, but I wasn't too worried about them. There was some interesting stuff on there, but I didn't think that they'd get all the way with the approaches that they were using.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, and I had a trip coming up, so I knew I only had like one day to work on it. So I was just hacking things together, trying to make it work.
Hmm.
Um,
And so when you said you had a trip coming up, so that's what just pushed you to really just crank on it and get it done in that amount of time. Wow, that's amazing, man. I swear
yeah,
down on.
if you look at that repo in that paper, there's actually like a better architecture that you can use, the super resolution GAN, generative adversarial network.
Mm,
And I actually used the lesser, like the next best thing because it was just faster. Like it didn't have as many dependencies.
interesting. I'm taking a look right now. Did you, on not on the medium, but on the PyTorch one that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
shared?
That repo um, should have the SR GAN in it as well.
SR.
What the paper that repo is based off of
I
was
see.
mostly about the SR GAN. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And what was this one even created for? I mean, obviously it was created for super resolution, which would tell me photos, but it looks like quadrupling the dimensions of an image. Isn't this the stuff that is able to? Yeah, it's like for blowing stuff up, right? And
Yeah,
making
yeah.
the
So
resolution. Oh wow.
yep, yeah, increase the resolution of images. And it's not like it's never meant for perfect resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
But by training on a lot of images, it learns to fill in like certain textures.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so like if you have a blurry resolution of a face, it's going to create a face, but it might not be the person, that the low resolution images of.
Right. Right. But
Yeah.
it seems like it's getting close enough to
Yeah, yeah.
doing it right. In most cases, except for the really extremes, it
Yeah,
is
if
practical.
you're only like if it's only like a 4x resolution increase, there's a lot of detail in those images still. So it does look really good. It cleans it up, and oftentimes people will compare it to the original. And from a human perspective, you can't really tell the difference.
That's amazing. So that's it. I mean, I gotta assume the movie industry has taken note of this, and if they haven't, they will eventually because this seems like a great way to upscale content like that's in only DVD quality. I mean, they literally have, I think, a few like low res screenshots from movies already on here. So to upscale them to HD or Blu-ray or beyond seems totally possible now. And
Yeah.
practical.
They're starting to
Again,
use a lot of deep learning technology. So I mean, this will help you clean up images, but you know, you can also just produce synthetic images. There's this new thing that's hot right now, also from OpenAI actually. It's called DALL-E 2, DALL-E 2, and it's a network that you can just type in a description of the photo you want, and it'll produce the photo. And so people are like having it generate all kind of crazy stuff. It's really amazing.
interesting. Um, so Dolly 2, you just type in. Oh, you have to actually have an account. It looks like. Oh well.
Well, to use it, yeah,
Yeah,
you got to get on a wait list to actually use it,
I
but
saw that.
there's a bunch of there's a lot of examples on Twitter and stuff. People that do have access, they're
Oh,
asking
okay.
for requests, and
That's really interesting. I
yeah,
mean,
there's some wild stuff in there.
yeah, some of the art, especially, jeez, telling it that you want to do a painting of a fox sitting in a field
Yeah,
at
a
sunrise.
picture of an astronaut on a horse.
That's
Like,
amazing. Like,
yeah, it's wild.
it's wild and it's scary though. Like, ooh, man, oh man. Like, cause this does eventually tie into deepfakes at some point. Um, like that's its own thing. So it
Yeah,
converges with that.
a lot of the underlying architecture there is very similar to what you need to produce a deep fake.
Yeah. Is it intertwined already, or is that something that you would just guess that it's going to intertwine naturally?
No, I mean they're intertwined.
Oh, they already are.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot of the same technology underlying it with these convolutional neural networks.
Interesting. Nvidia, are they? They seem to be a pretty big player in this field. Are they? Are they?
Yeah.
Would you say they're leading the front from it? Other than the players on OpenAI. Yeah, I'm guessing they're actually in OpenAI too. But they're the loudest company, I think I've heard
Well,
in
they've
this
kind of had the
field.
monopoly on the GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone that does deep learning stuff up until recently has been doing it on NVIDIA GPUs because of the computer or the CUDA computation framework.
Yeah, yeah,
So people weren't using like AMDs or anything. Google does now have their own hardware, the Tensor cores, and then now Apple has the M1 chip that you can do some stuff on too. But still, NVIDIA GPUs are probably the most popular way to go. And then
interesting.
NVIDIA does have an awesome research lab that does a lot of the media stuff, but OpenAI's is good. Facebook AI research actually has a pretty good research lab. And then you know, a lot of the top universities also do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I heard a few names in there that were like, oh, those companies
Yeah,
having that much. Yikes.
I separate Facebook from Facebook AI research. I think
Yeah.
they are slightly separate.
Okay. Well, hopefully, because
Yeah,
yikes, jeez, it's already a really crazy place. So is Twitter. I'm not gonna say Twitter is much better. It's
yeah,
just it happens to be the one that I use more. But any social media company kind of messing with AI and potentially content to maybe fool shareholders or whatever. That gets scary. So
yeah.
very interesting times that we live in, and I'm pretty sure there was some person at some point that said that in a bad way. Oh well, I'm sure it's fine. Hey, just really
It'd be
quick in
fine.
chat.
Don't worry about
Yeah, just retarded.
that.
Somebody in chat wrote the data that you fed when you were doing the analysis. Did you generate the text and then take a low res screenshot of the known solutions? And yeah, that's an interesting question because I kind of I read the solve, and by the way, it's an amazing solve if you are watching this and you haven't read it yet. If you go and check out the Medium post that Will did, it's really kick-ass. Like he takes you basically through pretty much everything. But yeah, I wondered the same thing. Did you do that? Did you or what did you do?
Yeah, so basically, the final solution for how to generate the data was yeah, generate white image just like the challenge image, and then I was pulling words randomly from a dictionary, and I was actually pulling two words at a time and having a space in between them to mimic what's in the challenge image, because that's important. Like you got to try to learn all those nuances. Um, and then in the write up, like I describe how I did have to do like a bit of optimization to figure out what the like right font size would be, and like how granular the blur would have to be to produce images like the challenge image.
I see.
So for an image of like the resolution that you posted for the challenge, those pixel boxes are like 15 by 15 actual pixels. So had to mimic that, find the font size to produce characters that would create, basically three of those 15 by 15 boxes high. Um, and then, you had given the font, so I was using the same font that you were, and then creating those high res images, and then implemented the mosaic blur to do the 15 by 15 grid averaging, and then those pairs of images are what I feed into the network. So I give the network the blurry image, and then it outputs what should be a high res image, and then the error is just the mean squared error between those two, so the difference in pixel values squared, and then you just take the average. So
Hmm.
if you did a perfect reconstruction, that number would be 0. But the further you get away from a perfect reconstruction, the number goes up. And then the whole training process is like tuning the weights of this neural network so that score goes down. So like you're reducing the error, and so slowly over time, it gets better and better at reconstructing those images. And then because the training data was generated to match your challenge image, then you can feed it the challenge image at any time and see kind of what it's showing you. And that was what the GIF was. The
Hmm.
each frame was like after feeding my network around 1,000 images, I would check and see what the output was, and I would just save them off as an image, and then the GIF at the end was the kind of the combination of all those over time. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
that image that you had up there,
Hmm.
um, when I messaged the network is learning, like that wasn't the final solution. That was when I was first hacking stuff together. So
Yeah.
that was not the right font. It wasn't even the right font size. I was doing the blur wrong. So there was a lot of issues, but even that was like pretty cool to see. You can kind of see like a few things popping
Yeah.
out there, but
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely
Like
not as good.
the, the T's and the Y's look like
Yeah.
they were starting to, and those are the ones that are the most interesting to me too. Is that there's these blocks are literally blocks. Uh they're not triangles. They're not dots. They're blocks. And so to get intersections that are triangle shaped or whatever shaped
Hmm.
uh, out of a square blob is just so it's a mind bend. It really is.
Yeah, I put something in there about how you can almost think about the low res, as not being characters like we think about them, but you can almost think about it as a different language. Because even if you reduced every character to a single pixel, the way that mosaic blur works is the pixel value you get is the average for everything that was in that grid. And so, different
Hmm,
letters would have different averages just because of how much, ink basically is in them.
that's
So
interesting.
even with single pixels, if you knew like the font and everything, you might be able to reconstruct them just based off of the characters having different averages.
Huh. Yeah, that's that's super interesting because that's a completely. It sounds to me like that would be a completely different way of solving it than how you did it in the end, right? Or is it not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it could be different. Yeah.
that's it's almost in a way kind of sounds, I guess, especially if you knew the font size, it seems like that would be the way to do it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there might be some collisions, but that's where
sure.
the like if you train on natural language and sort of get the statistics of common letter pairs, you can start to rule like certain things out. Like if a J collides with a T or something, you can figure it out if you
Yeah.
know the surrounding letters.
And then you would also know the language usually that it's in, right? So if it was in English, then you know there's going to be vowels usually in the middle. There's a lot of statistical analysis of common language use, so a lot of the word the, I, things like that, right? So I'm sure
Right.
that could all
Yeah.
factor in to make something really super practical. Scary practical. I keep saying that word scary, but I mean, it's. I think I think anything new that maybe challenges our definition of privacy and the ability to keep our lives private is something that triggers that feeling in people. I don't know, but
Yeah.
oh well. Gotta live in
Luckily,
it.
the remediation on this one's pretty easy. Just put a black bar over your text instead of blurring it out.
Well, but then I have a feeling you're gonna tell me that you've developed a new chain that can solve that somehow.
Well, as long as you didn't do it PDF and it's just a layer that can be removed, then you're probably good.
Yeah, probably. I love that. Probably good. Oh man, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm just going through the. Oh yeah, that you can see the word nobody in retrospect. Yeah, yeah. So, just going down here, one of the things that you touched on that I was like, yes, okay, that's awesome. You definitely this write up totally rules. Was the word faux and the fact that you put it in parentheses and then kept writing who uses the word faux. Uh, yeah, I mean, like that was one of those proofs or whatever you want to call it. At the time, that that was the best way I could think of that I could put something in there, not an Easter egg, but just a thing that wasn't guessable. Like so that word wasn't guessable, and yeah, I think even though you had the solve, legitimately had it, it made you almost question it, which wasn't my intent. But it's good that it worked out.
Oh yeah, no, such a good idea by you, and that's definitely like a good way to fool, things that are basically just going off of probability too. Like,
Yeah,
how often did
yeah,
faux come
that's
up in my
true.
training set? It probably didn't come up very often.
That's a really good point. Huh. Interesting. So in a way, I mean, so the obvious devious part of my brain goes to, well, what are the countermeasures? And obviously, you just discussed one of them, which was black box. But if I guess if you were unable to, for some reason, unable to not use black boxes, which I can't imagine a possible situation like that. I'm sure it comes up. But using non-traditional words or like maybe old style or old speaky English. I don't know, something like that. Interesting. This one makes you think. The whole thing makes you
Or just
think.
replace the word with something random before you blur it out. I mean, there's all kind of stuff you could do.
Yeah. Writing it backwards.
If it's going to be redacted, you know.
Yeah. Super, super interesting stuff. I love it. I love it. But you know the way. But yours didn't. Yours did it in a way that would never be defeated by this, by the methods that I just described, by writing weird things. Eventually, it seems like it would have been able to uncover it. Even if it was in Spanish or something, you would have eventually seen, oh, this is definitely Spanish, because look at how it was doing
Yeah.
it as it was training.
Yeah, because I wasn't relying on any like probabilities of like the next character given the first character or anything like that. It is robust to that kind of stuff. I did see. I think it was another thing you posted was like it was a hidden Markov model that somebody claimed
Mm.
to have been used for this kind of task, and that kind of statistical information is what those models sort of rely on, and so you could throw off that kind of stuff by using low probability words or switching up the language or whatever.
Yeah. Um,
I thought you were going to throw some numbers in there. That's what I was really worried about.
yeah, I guess I could have, but again, I really, even though and I know when the solve probably was revealed, a lot of people were like, well, what the fuck was wrong with this guy? Because the wording is, it's a jab at it, and it seems negative, but truly, I really did want to inspire some actual results, and yeah, that's also just, I mean, it's something that I'm sure people actually hate about my account, but I write just like that. It's just how I grew up, I guess. I don't know. I think it was Catholic school that did it to me. I'm joking. But yeah, no, I really, regardless of whether the fact that I wrote that it's a faux vulnerability that nobody questioned, I really, I'm super excited that it was able to be solved. And actually, I had it up. Let me just pop it up here real quick. This was actually the one of the Photoshop's windows that I had for it, and it shows, just for the, I guess, the proof of it, the original, and then the
Oh,
text
cool.
that I had used. Yeah, and if you just, I mean, I could do it right now, but it's actually in another image that had the actual blurring being done. But yeah, just straight up mosaic, nothing too fancy. And like you said, I just, I, I was optimistic, but I just, there's something about it that made it seem impossible, but it was not. Here it is, mosaic.
Yeah, so
Okay.
my friend who is working on this in parallel, like I said, the hardest part here is trying to create the training data to
Mm-hmm.
mimic what you did, and there's some unknowns about what you did. So he was doing some crazy stuff like trying to stretch the image, like maybe you had stretched the image and horizontally but not vertically, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, and
Throwing
so
numbers in there, punctuation.
I think some more devious people out there probably would have, and I don't know how there would possibly be more devious people than me. But that's a joke. No, I thought about doing the weirdness like that, but it would have made it. So I was gonna show the solve anyways at the end, no matter what, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so I didn't want to make it unfair. I wanted to make it a goal that was possible and hopefully inspire other people that are working on it currently to keep going. Like, I really think, and I'm hoping enough people saw it, but I put the thing out that said, hey, even though this got solved, keep going on it, because
yeah. That's such a good idea.
yeah, and
I would
like,
love to see other solutions.
I can't promise that I'm gonna be able to do another 1,000, but I definitely would figure something else out, to try and make that worth your effort. Uh, I think, for me at least, it definitely, even though I've been saying the word scary a bunch during this, it it made me realize that, okay, well, this is a super interesting area. This is very interesting, and even though, yeah, it can be abused, so can firearms, and
Right.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not anti-firearm. I love firearms. I think target practice is one of the most fun things you can do. It's one of the most relaxing things to do. I know a lot of people don't agree and say that it's terrifying, but in my opinion, I don't know. Target practice is fun. Anyways, point is, um, I think we have enough good guys working on it that if there was a threat to come up that was specifically rooted in AI, things like that, that we'd be able to offset it by, you know, coming up with a solution. I certainly hope. Otherwise, we're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like any security research. I mean, you gotta identify the vulnerabilities and you know educate people on how they can be exploited, what you can do to prevent any harm happening to you if there's a bad actor using the technology.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agree with you on that. But you said there was another method that somebody was using. Um,
You actually posted it, yeah. It was a paper uh,
I,
where
yeah,
where people were using hidden Markov models.
I so one of my biggest problems is being able to find the garbage that I write on this when I'm doing the show. It's just really difficult. Let me see if I can find it really quick though, because I was interested in that even more. That you had said that it was a thing to note. So let me see
Yeah,
if I
so
can
the I
find
mean
it.
the way that those work is a hidden Markov model. You're you're assuming that there are some hidden states that you're not going to get to observe, and so in this case, it would be like the high res characters, and then all you get to see are the observed states, which would be the low res characters. And then what the model tries to learn is the probability of seeing a low res character given what its high resolution counterpart was, and then it also learns the probability of seeing the next character given whatever the current character is. So that's where, like, if you trained it on a bunch of English words
Mm,
being blurred, it would actually, the model, explicitly takes into account those like co-occurrences. It's a
got
cool
it.
technique. A lot of people use it for like language modeling, for producing, like having the computer produce text. You can use it to like classify American Sign Language, like videos of
Hmm,
people doing sign, um, where the
interesting.
the hidden states for that are like, hey, what are they actually saying? All I'm seeing are these observations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another application. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, man, all these things that you bring up are like they're mind blowing to me. And I know they shouldn't be. For you, you're just like, well, what the hell? I've been working on this forever. But yeah, like seriously, yeah, no, I wouldn't have even dawned on me to be using it for that. I guess it has so many damn practical applications that
there's yeah, there's so many applications. All this stuff.
I think uh, for law enforcement especially, like you gotta think all of the horrible security cameras that are out there that local police departments use, that they're trying to solve murders and stuff, and they can't catch a plate because it's it's low res, it's barely NTSC, right? But with technology like this, or even the PyTorch super resolution technology, that would seem like a way to, at least in my opinion, that they would be able to get like a pull a plate from a really bad capture or even a
Yeah, but
suspect
there, I
image.
mean, there are aspects of that you do have to be careful. So, the final output image that you're getting, it came from this neural network that, again, is just a bunch of basically math, a bunch of matrices being multiplied together and some functions. And so, the license plate thing, I think that's pretty not controversial and definitely a good application. But if you have like a bad image of a guy that like shoplifted a grocery store, and I've seen those pictures, like you're not going to recover the actual face of the person. If the network pops out a face and it looks like a guy, that guy probably didn't do it. So
Right.
that's where you gotta, I guess it's part education. Like you can give the tools to law enforcement, but there's an education aspect where the limitations of the technology are clearly understood, so people don't get hurt that shouldn't.
Yeah, I really hope that at least maybe I can't hold my breath that that police, local police departments are gonna all be responsible with it, but maybe at least once it hits a court, uh, evidence can be either admitted or not admitted
Yeah.
based on its viability. But I would agree with you. What do you think about the statistical analysis that they're doing with, like, I believe there's some kind of system that they use for sentencing now. Have you ever heard of that? Like, or is that something that you're not really, going to that
Um,
area?
I'm blanking on the name. I do know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name too, and I think they've actually been using it for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
scary how
it's
long.
it's the common it's the common example when you take like a AI ethics course. They'll bring it up because of how like broken it
Oh,
is.
okay. That's good.
Yeah,
That's really
so
good to hear, actually.
I, I'm not super to that stuff, so I don't know like what the current state of the art is, but definitely the system that was being used had a lot of problems.
Got it. Okay. So, um, all right. They, when you said a course, though, what you talking like college stuff, or what kind of
Or
courses?
just stuff you can like catch on YouTube.
And they pretty much all point to it. That's good.
Yeah, it's a pretty common example. And another one that's often used is like what do they call it? Basically like algorithm driven policing.
Hmm. Yeah,
And so
yeah,
the
right.
setup there,
Those Cisco
yeah,
commercials. It showed a really, really clean, really nice neighborhood, and it was all because of computing that predicted
right.
crime.
Yeah.
Pre-crime,
The
they
the
might call
problem,
it.
yeah, minority report.
Thanks.
Yeah. So so the issues with a lot of these setups is a, a lot of these systems, there's like a feedback loop. And
Hmm.
so, these systems, it takes data to train them. And then the model will predict things like it saw. But then if in the real world, a human is taking actions based on those predictions to collect more data that's going to get trained on, then you're just like, there's this feedback loop. And so let's say you make a bunch of arrests in a neighborhood and that becomes part of the training data. The model's going to start predicting that like that neighborhood, needs the extra policing. And if all the police are in that neighborhood, then that's where all the arrests are going to be. And it
Hmm.
just feeds itself. And that's how, these things can get out of hand. And that's
Yeah.
the danger that I was alluding to earlier. Like it's not really the algorithm's fault, it's the way that people use it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. It is. And education, like you said, is the way to go. GI Jack was saying is he was saying law enforcement concerned that they have the wrong guy. When did that start? But he also said that yeah, it's better to educate lawmakers and the general public that the police can abuse this. I guess I would agree with that too. I think it's just important to educate everybody on it, really, because
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Everybody should be educated on it.
yeah, it's coming to your life.
Talking
Nobody.
about earlier we were talking about where education is going and technology. Like I think pretty soon, people will stop learning Excel. They'll just all learn Python, and then this would just be the next step after that.
Hmm. That would be crazy. I mean, honestly, that would be insane if that actually happened. I I don't. You think that's possible? Really? I would.
I mean,
I'm just
I don't
thinking
think
of
it's going
like.
to happen anytime soon,
Okay. Well,
but I mean, everyone would benefit from knowing at least like one scripting language. It's just so easy to automate stuff.
I can't
And then
disagree with you
as the
there.
world and all our jobs get more and more technology dependent, people need to be able to make quick fixes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point for sure. I mean, like it's uh like that's just the way of the world, right? That's evolution, hopefully. Evolution. Um people are just so averse to coding though. It's interesting. Um what do you think? Where should we go from here? I'm there was something you had mentioned. We had talked about this briefly. I'm wondering if you recall. It was a resource that people can look at. Um, besides, it actually might even be. I don't know if it's in your Medium write up, but is there any resources that you can think of, or I guess even just YouTube videos that could get people kind
Yeah,
of on track for that?
there was a link. There was a link to the paper that where that model came from, but I don't know that that would really help anybody. If I were to point someone like just a place to start, um, there's this cool course. It's called I think it's Fast AI for Coders or something like this. So there's this guy named Jeremy Howard that runs this this group called Fast AI, and then they
Mm.
have a deep learning framework called Fast AI that lives on top of PyTorch. So it's just a framework built on top of PyTorch, and his course is like really accessible to almost anyone. Like if you already know Python, then you'll be able to take that course and go from like 0 to 60 immediately. And the way he teaches it is they start at like hit the go button and this thing is gonna like train a classifier and you're gonna get to see the results and it's gonna be really cool. And then they slowly walk it down and like get more into the weeds and like theoretical, which is probably what you need before you start like read these crazy research papers.
Yeah.
So they're kind of one of the only courses that do it that way that I've seen. A lot of the other courses will start at like, here's a matrix, here's matrix algebra, like now's the next step. Whereas they start with like, hey, you want to classify or do, fast AI dot classifier and look at all the cool stuff you just did. Now let's talk about how that works.
Interesting. Awesome. And Fast AI was not OpenAI. I didn't want to mix those up.
No, yeah, they're different.
Fast AI.
Yeah. Fast.ai, making neural nets uncool again. That's their slogan.
Is it really? That's
Yeah.
great. Uh, okay. Yeah, this has a lot of practical deep learning for coders.
Yeah, that's the course. Practical
Definitely
deep learning for
awesome.
coders.
Perfect. Uh, there's no such thing as not a math person. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with them. Math is like not one of my strong points, admittedly. But maybe I'm sure they're gonna tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, they'll tell you that you're wrong.
Good stuff. Anybody in chat got any questions for how he did it? And I have a sneaking suspicion. One of the big issues I have with doing this on Saturday is the weekday crowd has nothing in their brains about wanting to be on Twitter or be online
Yeah.
on the weekend. And so I don't know. I think I need to move this to weekdays so that we can get more people like that. Especially we're doing the challenge. I know they're gonna catch this on the replay, but by then I can't really ask much. But they can always at you on your Twitter. You are
Yep.
at what's your Twitter? I know I'm gonna
Will
spell
C.
it wrong.
Fleshman.
It is Will C.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you notice that there's
Yep.
somebody already trying to imitate you? They created an
No.
account with your account profile. Uh,
That's awesome.
it was this month too. So yeah, you already have an impersonator.
Very
Um,
good.
I mean, hell, that's a really easy path to verification. So enjoy your star. Uh, good stuff. I think I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? We covered a lot of, I think, the best parts. Like we got it.
Yeah, and like I put in the write up, so a group of people that I lead at work, like they are also data science machine learning people. So I'm trying to put together in my spare time, like an ML flavored CTF for those guys as a training event.
Mm-hmm.
And then if and I want to include something like this challenge as one of the challenges. If that's any good, like I'll share the whole CTF with people too, and then whether it's like pretty soon or whatnot, I can also share the code that I used for this challenge. Again, like it's not very special. It just uses that network, and then the tricky part is just writing the code to generate the data. Which, from the write up, if you know how to program, you can probably figure it out yourselves. But
Uh, One thing you had said, and we even talked about it right before we kind of went live, but you said it uses that network. Which network did it use? Is it something that you're gonna say, or was that the part that you were kind of not telling yet?
no. The network is in the that GitHub repo that you shared. It's the SR ResNet.
Oh, SR.ResNet.
Yeah,
So
super resolution. Yeah, ResNet.
where does it show it in here? Help me, I'm blind. ResNet. Okay, I guess train SR ResNet. Does this actually?
No,
Maybe
no,
I'm
no.
thinking
So
of
so if you
net.
go back into the
It might be my definition of net that's fucking me up here.
yeah, maybe.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean
So
in machine learning world?
yeah, so I'm talking about a neural network when I say net.
Okay. All right. So it's
Yeah, so,
not. It's not like a public network that you're connecting to that is like a
right. Yeah,
shared
yeah.
resource like AWS or anything like that at
Yep.
all.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry
just
for
me
the
derping. I'm
yeah.
so
So
new
neural
to it.
network.
I got it. Okay.
So the only thing that I
Sweet.
took from that repo is in the models .py file,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a class in that file called SRResNet, and that's the neural network that I used for the challenge.
Wow.
And then the only modifications that it needed was I messed with the first convolutional
Damn.
layer is normally for 3-channel images, red, green, blue. So you got to modify that to handle black and white images. And
Right.
I messed a little bit with the scaling factors and stuff, but
Okay,
that
and that
part's not
makes
too important.
sense to what you had written now. Because I'll be honest, when I read your write up of it, I wasn't able to investigate the things that I didn't quite get. Like I understood the concepts of what you had written, but there were a few things, and I do specifically remember when you started talking about black and white, or having to
Yeah.
rewrite it for black and white, that I was like, wait, what do you mean? What is that reference to? I see. So now I get it. Very cool. This is a fascinating world, I gotta say. And by that, I mean the machine learning world. So thanks for opening my eyes to it. I mean, honestly, you would think I would already be sort of kind of interested in it to put out a challenge like this, but it for whatever reason, it's just something that, as Fast.ai writes, I always assumed it was off limits to me because I'm not a math
Yeah.
person, or at least I don't consider myself a math person. But I guess I need to take another look at that.
Yeah, take a
Maybe I
look.
can get better. And so should everybody else watching this. If you haven't already taken a look, take a look. Again, William C. Fleshman, and your Medium, is it right in your bio, or?
I probably don't have it in there.
Well,
Let's see.
they can scroll through your
I don't even know
Twitter
what it
and
is,
see
but
what
yeah.
you've written. I think it should be the same name usually. Let me double check. Yep, it is.
Yeah.
William.
The other
Fleshman. But
the other Medium article that your crowd probably would like is there's one about a malware competition I did where the malware classifiers were all 3 machine learning models. That one's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Required a little bit more reverse engineering and stuff.
I think hopefully a decent amount of people had checked this out. I don't know why it's acting like I'm logged out, but I definitely had seen the classifiers, and all I got to say is your style of writing these up is so thorough and awesome that, yeah, definitely maybe write some more if you get free time. I don't want to badger you into doing it because I know life
Oh
is
no,
busy.
I need you to badger me. Yeah.
Well,
When
then
I
do
wrote
it.
this one
Do
up,
it
I was
out.
looking at the dates. I was like, "Oh man, 2019, that was so
Yeah.
long ago."
It really
What
was.
happened?
I think we all just suffered a time warp, and the other stuff that was in the news was, I'm not even gonna say the damn thing. It was just a convenient lie that we've been told to make us forget that we were abducted by aliens for 2 years. What the hell I'm talking about at this point. It's been really fun hanging out, man. Thanks so much for joining. I
Yeah, appreciate you
apologize
having
for
me.
the little rocky bit of start, but thanks for sticking through it, and thanks for doing all this. This has been super eye opening for me. I know it has for me, and I know it has for others. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you all next weekend, maybe. Maybe not. No, I'm just kidding. I think I'm gonna do next weekend too, but we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna top this one, man. Like this was a solid app. Solid episode. You're more than welcome to join, by the way, as I usually extend to all of our guests. You want to stop by anytime and like weigh in on something, some kind of insane machine learning thing, for let's say, for
Yeah.
instance, takes over a third world country and takes control of, feel free to weigh in and come on and let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, definitely let me know when this next competition gets crowdfunded.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing, is crowdfunding it. because I gotta say, as it didn't feel the most. No, I'm just kidding. It felt amazing giving prize money, but it will eventually bankrupt me, as somebody wrote, if I keep doing it out of pocket like that. But yeah, crowdfunding it, I think, is the way to go. Maybe just if for anything, to raise the amount, right? Like, it would be way cooler to double that amount, I'm sure. So hopefully that'll be an interesting little side tangent for things that gets better and better. And then maybe it'll dovetail into what you're doing too. So excited to see what you come up with, man.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Good talking to you too. Take care.
See ya.
We'll see you guys next time. Later. I'm gonna put the disclaimer up just in case you forgot. See you guys.
Thinking that my game is weak, you lying to your fucking self. I don't need a producer, I do this shit by myself. I'm the engineer, the conductor, and the crewman. 17 rounds in, the Ruger hit many men. Yes, I'll be off my rocker, no darker contain me. Drugs will rearrange me, stupid hoes will try to tame me. See me in the streets and internet scream, fuck you, pay me. I've been searching for the convict directive, stopping me lately. Thinking that my game is weak, you blind to your fucking self. I don't need a